Welcome to Out of Your Mind, near-death and out-of-body journeys, inspiring and uplifting conversations with those who have glimpsed beyond the veil. Get out of your mind and into your potentiality with your host, clinical hypnotherapist, biofield therapist, Reiki Sage Master, and death doula, Angie Bryars.
From the Smoky Mountains of North Carolina, we have a guest today, Susan Redwine. And Susan had an incredible divine intervention. Susan grew up in a very traumatic childhood, religious dogma, a life full of fear, and it continued on into her adulthood to the point where she no longer wanted to be on this earth. She began to plan her suicide and eventually got to the night before. She was writing her letters to her children to say her goodbyes. And at that moment, the night before she was going to do it, she had an experience, the near-death experience or an out-of-body experience, whatever it was absolute divine intervention. Her near-death story is incredible, and there's a lot of podcasts out there where she shares this with you, so please do have a look for them. And the result of this is what we want to talk about today. Susan came back with an incredible gift, and the gift is poetry, and she writes incredible poetry that is so uplifting and so beautiful and haunting. And this gift has come from this experience, and we're going to share some of that with you today. Susan, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Angie. I really appreciate it.
Susan, look, can we begin by, I'd love to read out a poem that I saw of yours. We've got a few here, but I just think it's really beautiful. You know, a lot of our listeners are, recently diagnosed terminal or a long way through that and facing their impending death. And they're so terrified of the act of death and where they go after that. You know, we live in a society that hasn't, brought this into our conversations like all of our ancestral, families. And so the fear of dying is really real to people. And I just want to
Yes,
share this poem, if that's okay.
absolutely.
All right. Many fear dying, yet in the bigger picture of it all, it is simply another stage of life. At the same time we are leaving here, dying, we are transitioning and transforming. We are being reborn into our divinity, authentic selves, and true identities. Part of my purpose during this lifetime now, and since my NDEs, is to tell others what I have experienced, felt, saw, and remembered. Once we leave this amazing earth and planet, once we have finished here, graduating from doing all the human things, choosing our path, writing our stories, while learning the lessons of human growth, of loving others, exploring the earth, each other, and ourselves, we transform into pure God force energy. And then we go home, where everything is alive and vibrating in harmony, great peace, joy, and unity. That it will never matter how one leaves, we are received in holy divine and unconditional loving arms, ecstatically. Susan Redwine. Susan, I love this poem. I just find it so inspiring for people. You know, it gives them a reason of why we're here, what we're doing, and how we're leaving. How did you get inspired by this? Was this as a direct result from your experience?
It's called mystic poetry. And what happened was, as I was healing after my near-death experience, my divine intervention, I had to heal myself first and grow my human self and face all the things that I didn't face before leaving. And as I did, as I healed, as I grew, my human self, all of a sudden, the gifts started coming back to me, those that I had practiced actually throughout lifetimes. Um, I also, during my near death experience, I was welcomed home by a very bright spirit in a purple robe. And I came to find out later that that was Saint Barnabas. And he guides me now. He takes my life experience and my divine experience and helps me to put it into words. And what it does is it helps others remember who they are as they're living their human lives, that we're not just a body, we're a divine soul in a body experiencing a human life. And my experience was so overwhelming with unconditional love and joy. And it brings tears to my eyes every time I speak about it because it's home. And I wasn't afraid. I personally wasn't afraid, but I can see how so many people are because they've forgotten who they are. 100% holy, and holy is what I say. So as soon as this gift came back, I was like, oh my God, so honored that I had reached the place in my life where I was able to tell everybody else, there's nothing to fear. Because during my near-death experience, I was like, oh my God, they're never going to believe this. There's nothing, you can't die. You go on living. As a matter of fact, it's so beautiful and welcoming and ecstatic. It's so ecstatic to be welcomed back home where there isn't any judgment, where everyone sees you as you truly are. It's beyond words. I attempt to put it into words, and that's why I am surrounded by, and guided by the Most High when I go in writing these experiences, on paper. So thank you. I'm so grateful that you're sharing this, and I hope it helps someone to understand and to remember just a little bit. There's nothing to fear because you're being reborn.
Absolutely. I believe it will help a lot of people, Susan. And I can't wait till you make a beautiful coffee table book of these. Susan, when you started writing these, um, what happens? Are you do you wake up to write them, or do you sit down and just feel something coming through and downloading? Do you feel a voice with you? Like, do you feel like it's your words coming through, or do you feel like that you're a conduit for them to bring messages into the world via you, and having you as the portal, understanding what they are bringing through because they've allowed you to experience that yourself?
Um, I'll put it really simply. It's like plugging in to the God computer. It really is, because that was massive, believe me. I mean, this was a God force energy. So sometimes I wake up in the morning and all of a sudden I'm hearing these beautiful words that I was actually experiencing before I woke up and came back into my body again. So I leave freely. It's a shamanic practice. Mystic poetry is a shamanic practice. And I bring back messages to give to others in the form of mystic poetry so that it can ease their grief, ease their pain, ease their fear. So I'm plugging in, and as I'm using my life experience, my Susan life experience, divine energy is guiding my words. And if I get it wrong, they're like, no, 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 go back. No, that doesn't sound right.
You hear their corrections?
Oh, yes, I hear the corrections right away because I'm plugged in 100%. So it's like my hands are being guided. A lot of people call it automatic writing. Right. So it's all of those things. But basically, I'm being used as a conduit because I had this experience and was always going to, because it was part of my soul contract, to come back and share these messages.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love how you're sharing this, and you're very articulate about the process of working with this. You know, a lot of people have inspiration to do things like art and things like that, but they don't understand where it comes from. So having it articulated by someone will also be a great validation for a lot of people that are like, where is this coming from? You know, that's not normally the way I think, or even how I speak, or how I paint. You know, I'm a painter that paints crap. You know, I can't paint for the life of me, and then suddenly this great painting comes out, and I know it wasn't me. And you know,
Right.
it's great to have someone like
It's
yourself
the
share this with you.
universal God consciousness, that we're all a part of.
Yeah.
It really is. We're all a part of it. And everyone can do it. It's not like I'm special or, even though I am, we all are. It's opening yourself up completely and using the pain and turning it into power.
Absolutely.
It's unconditional love energy.
Yeah.
And so I have to be open to receiving whatever it is for that day, but I'm always inspired by what's happening in the world.
And how do you get prepared to be inspired? Like what's your regime? Do you get up and meditate? Do you have any ceremonies that you do? You talk about shamanistic work, so I'm wondering if you have a process that you personally use to allow yourself to prepare for your work.
Well, I've been doing my own practice every day for many years. And really, what I do, especially here, since I'm in North Carolina and I'm surrounded by trees and nature, I go out on the porch in the morning and it's like opening your spiritual email. So to me, it's like a huge computer system because we do live in a world of possibilities and probabilities. Um, and that not only that was a sacred experience, it was also sacred geometry and unconditional love and motion. So I open it up mentally and I allow it all to come in and to receive what I tell everyone. I put my finger up in the air and say, which way is the wind blowing today? And all of a sudden I'll hear, this is what you need to write today. I was like, okay.
And do you get guidance and advice on other areas of your life? On where
Yes,
you're
I
living
get,
and a garden and
because I visited the Akashic records, and I saw many of my lives. I got to experience many of my lives in my life review and others that were in it as well. Um, I'm able to tap into the universal God consciousness system, Akashic records, and help others to see what their soul plan is for this lifetime and what they came here to embody and their highest potentiality and what's holding them back or what's stopping or blocking them from moving forward. And which is really important because look at me, I was ready to jump off the earth. I had no idea what was blocking me. So during my healing experience, I kept thinking all along, because I took many, many steps in my healing process in different processes. And I thought, oh my God, whenever I get to the point where I can do this for anybody else, I just want to help people to understand you have to face it. We have to unblock, we have to see what's holding us back, even though, you feel like it may kill you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And can I just ask a personal question? Just for people that are going through these things themselves, your suicidal ideation, that was within you for a long time, wasn't it? It was sort of growing
Yes.
within you until it came to the point of that night. So what I wanted to ask you was, when you came back, have you since this amazing journey and this divine intervention and learning and understanding why you're here and why you learned everything you did and why you were born into the family you were and why you had to experience and learn from the traumas that you had, have you ever had that ideation again since then, or has that been able to leave you within that instant?
Yes, I've had it again. Absolutely. And what happens, especially with near-death experiencers, they come back and they're like, oh my gosh, I need to change my life. And you are a completely changed person, but there's so many changes. It takes so much time to integrate and take that wisdom, the love, everything we were shown and integrated into our lives. That my human life continued with the learning and growth, and I checked all the boxes, before coming to Earth. So we want to go home because we know it's home. That this is not, home. This is just a visitation. So what happened with me was I had to make a commitment to living my life to the fullest. And as soon, because I had one foot on the earth and one foot jumping, if everything got rough, because it did, I was ready to pack up and leave again. I'm like, no, I know we don't get judged. But what I did was one day I went out and with my meditation, I said, okay, I'm making a commitment to living and I'm here to serve. You show me the way, and I will live in the trust of that no matter what happens. And as soon as I did, kaboom, life started happening a different way just by making the commitment to live my fullest life. And it didn't matter when I left anymore.
That's a beautiful outcome. And so divine intervention is a gift, isn't it? It's a gift.
It is a
Hey,
gift. There's a lot of challenges when you come back from an experience and you see everyone as a divine being, because in my life review and everything, I saw everyone, at home, we see everyone as a divine being. So what I had to learn was how to differentiate between who was dangerous and who wasn't, any because I didn't have any fear anymore, and I knew everybody was a divine being, and I knew they all had a soul purpose, and it wasn't for me to judge anymore. So it was quite the journey to walk on the earth again afterwards, learning how to navigate the energies and see what was really important.
How did you develop your skills into, setting boundaries and defining, what are people's agendas and who they are apart from the divine soul?
Well, having unconditional love for everyone, it doesn't matter what they do anymore. It just matters how you handle it. And that was one of the biggest things, and it still is. It's called self-mastery, and we're all doing it, not just me. And it's an everyday process. It's an everyday practice. People sometimes believe that you get at this pinnacle and, oh, I don't have to do anything anymore. No, more is handed to you. It really is.
Beginning of class, isn't it?
Yes. And it's like, okay, am I at the pinnacle yet? No. So it doesn't matter if I had a near-death experience or not. I'm still at the same place navigating, especially right now, the Earth's energies of
Absolutely.
discernment.
And you have a beautiful home there where it's very peaceful and you're at one with nature, so it would be very helpful. Could you imagine that you could be doing this journey in the city?
I have, I have done part of my journey with other people in the city. It's just that at this time in my life where I'm putting all of my attention on serving others, I'm getting the word out that there's nothing to fear, that there is no death. Um, I really listened to the universe and I knew that I was coming back here one day. So I worked and my thoughts, words, and actions were put to being here so that I could
Coming,
do
sorry,
this.
that's coming back to the Smoky Mountains.
Yes, coming back to the Smoky Mountains, sorry. Um, yes, and being here to at this point in my life because this is where I had my near-death experience. So it's a full circle. Now's the time to share it.
Beautiful. That's so beautiful. Can I just share before we close another one of your beautiful poems?
I would love that.
Thank you. So this one is visualize this. You are a spark of God. I am all that is, or ever will be, a child of the universe. Choose a name or religion because it does not care. One lotta, what you call it, only that you do. So this spark, you, has information within itself, DNA in your body that contains your God code, so to speak, of previous knowledge that is now cloaked from you for your protection, unless and until it is necessary for your soul's path or mission. An NDE, a traumatic event, a pandemic, a death, will activate one's God code and remembrance will begin, shaking you, awakening you, and stirring you up, up. Other life events will trigger this as well. Events that can or do shake you up to a higher awareness or perspective, opening your receptiveness and mind's eye to a no limits state of being, of no doubt, and knowing without knowing how you know. You just do. We are all connected to higher knowledge and intelligence at all times. We are always surrounded and guided on our earth journey, whether we consciously know it or not. However, once it is awakened in you, within you, there is no going back to not knowing. As the landscape of our reality has been expanded and stretched to new dimensions, there is a soul map to follow, a manuscript of information in so many words. There is a Bible that is hidden inside of you, and love turns the key. Why do you know this? Because you experienced it. Susan, your work is incredible, and I just think that you should put them all together and produce them because there's so many people out there that would love to just have something they can open and these are almost like prayers, right? I could imagine having them in a meditation and calling them out to the universe. And I just think your work is so incredibly beautiful.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Susan, before we
Honored.
go, can I ask you a question? If you imagine that we are sitting here with someone that has just been diagnosed with a terminal illness and they're afraid of their impending death and they have no idea where they're going from here, and they were listening to our conversation, what would you say to them?
Um, what I would say was I understand. I totally understand. We're all in this together. And We're here to help each other. Uh, but there's nothing to fear because there is no death. Death is a human word that we use because the body stops. Our time here is limited, and it can be limited by many things, not just that. Um, when I saw where I went when I went home, I knew that I was only returning where I came from. And the joy, seeing loved ones that I never remembered because I was having a life now that I couldn't, or I would go chase them too. you know, it's so beautiful. It's so magnificent. There's nothing to fear. Live your life joyously. Every moment, every sacred earth moment is a gift. It truly is. So no matter what's going on, no matter who's entering your sphere, you know, stand up, step out fearlessly and just live all of your moments.
That's it. And if you had someone sitting here that was a carer for someone that was leaving, their wife or their loved one, and they are, so sad that they're going, and they are unsure where they're going, what would you say to them about, watching over their loved one and doing the journey with them as their loved one transitions through death?
To be present, and to hold space and to love all of the moments with grace, gracefully, 100% in the now of what's happening because this is a celebration. I know it's sad for you. I do. I understand that. I've lost loved ones too. But they're about to be reborn again into their magnificence. And that's a huge celebration. I have worked with people who've had, children who were murdered, and sometimes we will loop in the memory of what happened rather than to celebrate their life. And that's what spirit always comes in and says, stop thinking about that. Please celebrate my life. Please, please.
Susan Redwine, thank you so, so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I will put in some links of where people can contact you and
Okay.
to access your poetry. And we look forward to seeing your book on Amazon.
Oh, thank you so much, Angie. I really appreciate it, the time. I'm so honored that you chose to work with me today.
Thanks for listening. Angie is available for clinical hypnotherapy specializing in PTSD, trauma release, and active living and regression therapy via Zoom. To book or find out more about online workshops, you can contact her at angieb@gmail.com or visit her Facebook page and YouTube channel, Angie Breyer's Biofield Therapy, or go to her website, canberraholisticcenter.com, spelled with a W. If you like this podcast, don't forget to review, like, and subscribe.